Where is Dora the Explorer actually from? You know, the Spanish-speaking icon who entertained kids for like 20 years. Literally, where is she from? We all know she's Latina, but the show never specified what country she actually came from. Many have been under the assumption that she's Mexican, myself included, but that's not the case. When the live-action Dora film released in 2019, many were led to believe that she was Peruvian because her actress Isabella Merced was, but that was never confirmed. So what Latin American country is she from? I'll let you have a guess. Ready for the answer? It's actually none of them, or all of them. Let me explain. First, for some background knowledge, Dora the Explorer is an animated preschool series that debuted on Nickelodeon's Nick Jr. block in the year 2000. It's created by Chris Gifford, Valerie Walsh Valdez, and Eric Weiner. The series follows Dora Marquez, a 7-year-old explorer who goes on adventures in the rainforest with a monkey named Boots. Each episode, she comes across challenges, but with a little help from the map, backpack, and her other friends, she gets through them with ease. Dora the Explorer would use an interactive format to teach kids Spanish, counting, colors, shapes, reading, kindness, accomplishing goals, and so much more. Dora would ask the audience a question, pause to give them time to respond, and tell them good job to give the illusion of a conversation. After its release, the show would go on to be a massive success and be Nick Jr.'s biggest show until Paw Patrol came around, accumulating 8 seasons, 177 episodes, 2 spin-off series, and later a live-action film. The series took the world by storm, being translated into 30 languages and available in 151 markets. The Dora Explorer franchise is one of the highest-grossing ones, being worth around $15 million. Now back to her Latina identity. When the show was in early development, there was no plan for Dora to be Latina. In fact, she was planned to be a white girl. The head of Nick Jr. proposed the idea of making her of Latino descent to represent Latino children in the US. After heading to a conference, she learned that of 80 primetime youth characters under the age of 18, none of them were Latino. And thus, a plan was made to make Dora Latina. The way they were going to handle her identity had to be dealt with. While the heroine was of Latino descent, the creators were not. So Latino consultants were brought on board to help set the framework of her culture. There was so much to get into: how she spoke her language, where she's from, and many other cultural elements. In development, there was disagreement between the consultants on her origins. Some wanted her from a specific country like Mexico or from Costa Rica. However, Dr. Carlos Cortez pushed the idea of Dora being Pan-Latina, meaning she wasn't from a specific country, but she shared cultural traits prevalent throughout Latin America. His reasoning was that Latino kids should be able to relate to Dora, regardless of where they're from. The creators loved the idea and settled on it, and since then, Dora has been a Latina icon. So that's your answer. Dora the Explorer is Pan-Latina, not from a specific Latin American country. She takes on an identity that is supposed to represent all of them. But the idea of Pan-Latina Dad is bigger than Dora the Explorer, and can be seen in other television programs long before. Before I go any further, I want to make known that I am not Latino, and come from an African background, but I take high interest in the topic and wanted to share this with all of you. Taken from the Latinx Open Access textbook, Craig Allen says, Pan-Latina Dad refers to the widely described a vicarious amalgamation of Spanish-speaking individuals in which distinctive national identities are paralleled by, and may give way to, the perception of belonging to a single Latinx population. To put it briefly, it's the idea of Latinos, regardless of which country they're from, are part of this one Latino population. A major key player in pushing this idea forward is TV. In the early days of Mexican television, Don Emilio Azcárraga Vidaurreta and his wealthy family were able to turn Mexico City into a hotspot for actors and performers as their content amassed a large audience. To coincide with this, they started changing their programs a certain way to appeal to a wider Spanish-speaking audience. They did this by removing Mexican elements from their programs, especially telenovelas, so that people who weren't Mexican could take interest in them. The shows would now have refined Spanish styles without Mexican dialects, and were shot at generic locations. The choice ended up being a success, as their shows were now largely seen in Latin America, Spain, and the Philippines. The Spanish International Network, now known as Univision, would follow this format by airing programs without cultural aspects to appeal to US Latinos regardless of background. When rival network Telemundo launched in 1987, their target audience was Puerto Ricans, Cubans, and other Latinos in the East. However, they struggled for a little bit. So by 1933, the network followed Univision's footsteps and would later air programs that were also culturally ambiguous, and success soon followed. Elena of Avalor, a preschool series spinned off from Sophia I, follows a somewhat similar route to Dora. The show takes place in a made-up fantasy land that's inspired by multiple Latin American countries, instead of just one. Though, the notion has been criticized. Telemundo and Univision have been criticized for pushing Latinos into a certain image. On a Dora-themed episode from NPR Code Switch, Professor Nicole Guidotti Hernandez said Dora presents a generic Latinidad from Mexico, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Dominican Republic, etc., leading to the co-host of the podcast to say, "We're kinda erasing the differences between Latin American countries. You know, culture, identity, all the things that make us unique. One thing is for certain. Dora's Pan-Latina identity was a decision deeply rooted in the time of its creation. At a time where there were barely any Latinos in children's television in the US, Dora the Explorer was made to fill in the gaps in a way that would suit all Latino kids." So what do you think? Especially if you're Latino, how do you feel about Dora being Pan-Latina? I would love to hear it in the comment section below. Also, all the sources I used to research for this video are in the description below, so I encourage you to take a look. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.